Simulate to Educate is a style of education that allows us to take young people, primary age, intermediate and college age, into a learning environment where they can practice the skills they need to use information technology. We've also got resources that they take home when we're working with them in the schools that engages the whole family. This isn't just about young people. Digital technology is a shared responsibility, and we have to teach not only the young people to use it, but we have to get them to engage their families and also teach them how to use it as well.
Fair to say that the world has changed very, very rapidly, and perhaps our habits haven't changed rapidly enough to keep pace with the technology that's now available.
I think that's true, and coming back to the word habit, we haven't actually established any positive habits with many of the ways we use this technology, and that's not a judgment. But if you look at the way that we use cameras, for instance, before the internet existed, they were Kodak based or chemical based, and you got 27 pictures. That cost a lot of money, and we made sure that the picture that we took had a reason, it was fit for purpose, and its ability to be exposed to a big audience was very limited. Then we got the internet, then we had cell phones, mobile cell phones, and then we attached cameras to them, and all of a sudden we're able to take that behaviour that was before and take pictures, but without any real consequence, no cost, no overhead. Add to that the ability to distribute them to hundreds or thousands of people. We didn't have any education available that identified the consequences of what the outcomes for young people. So the technology came first, but now we need to find ways to educate people from a values-based perspective, point of view, in how to use this technology safely.
Many people aren't aware of just how much information can be gained about them, and you're involved with young people, I understand, giving them some good guidelines as how to keep themselves and their information safe. Is that right?
Absolutely. We post information in various places around the internet. You know, we've always done, before the internet existed, we would talk to different people in the community, we would fill in forms and we would leave them at different places, and there was never really an ability to join all of that information together and form any kind of intelligence on a person. It was in separate locations. We've now gone to the internet, we have social networks, we have blog sites, we have online gaming sites, and in all of these environments we're able to leave bits of ourselves, bits of information. And people with certain skill sets are able to look at that information and join it together and form intelligence about individuals. Employers do that. 4 or 5 years ago, we were seeing quite a few, probably 20-30% of all employers, looking online at information about young people in an interview process. Now, I haven't met one employer that doesn't use that in some way. They'll be presented with a CV, and they will go to Google and they will look at the information that could be available about that individual. And that has become part of the interview process. We've become very judgmental of young people on the internet, and that has to change as well. The odd picture of a young person that could be asleep or drunk or doing something that's inappropriate, that does not represent their entire life. So we do need to get over this judgment and provide a much better benchmark at interview time.
I guess the other dark side is 133,000 New Zealanders affected, $500 million leaving the country through internet fraud. These are pretty frightening numbers, aren't they?
Yeah, and I must say, I saw that figure last year, the middle of last year, and that one shocked me. I mean, $500 million every year. If that was physical cash in wheelbarrows going out of banks, we would be just completely shocked. That's a lot of money. The other thing is the 133,000, they are victims, which means it's a successful crime has been committed against that person. If you look at the population of this country and then think about that number, it's a very big number, and it is primarily done through internet, across the internet. And we follow links in emails from strangers. We get emails that, for instance, one of the biggest assets that we have as individuals is our identity. First name, last name, date of birth, our address. If you look at any internal affairs information, they will tell you to protect that. And yet, many times we'll go on the internet or we'll receive an email from somebody claiming to be somebody that wants all of this information, and we simply got to fill it in and click a link. And we are promised some gift at the end or some reward. And it is the reward that is causing us to give this information up. And those behaviours need to change. They really do.
All right. Right. Now you've started something new, which is teaming up with the Nelson Police and also SeniorNet. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I started to work with SeniorNet last year, actually. As I've said before, we tend to look at young people that we think that they make mistakes with this technology because of their age, and that's incorrect. Adults make the same mistakes as young people. The situations are different, but the reasons for making the mistakes are always the same. And I started to work with SeniorNet, and we looked at how they use this technology. They do online banking. You know, older people may go to companion websites to meet people. And we looked at identity theft, internet fraud, and we looked at what kind of education would they need that would help them use this technology more safely. We developed a 4-hour module called Citizen 21, and it is aimed primarily at adults and senior citizens. That became available to SeniorNet here in Nelson. They've got 600 members. We've already worked with 140 of them, and it's going very, very well. What we realised was that the crimes that are being committed across the internet, these scam emails, for instance, or the cold calling. You get somebody from overseas calling you, claiming to be from an IT department that wants to fix your computer. People were talking about that as individuals, but they weren't sharing it within the community. So what we decided to do was we've got this education. We then created this newsletter that would basically go back to SeniorNet members, and anybody that had experienced a scam email, it would be turned into a report, and every 2 months the entire club would be reminded of the frequency and the types of things that were being attempted against them. Once we'd got that 600 people that we were talking to, I then thought to myself, well, why don't we give the police an opportunity to have 2 or 3 pages within this newsletter where they can talk to SeniorNet about the crimes that are being committed in this town. Then we thought, well, if it's going to be available to SeniorNet, let's make it available to Nelson. And that's what we've done, and it's called the Nelson Crime Watch newsletter, and it's available every 2 months.
John, listening to you and hearing some of the things that are happening on the internet, it's easy to start feeling a bit of anxiety about this, you know, but it's not as bad as all that. It's about keeping some pretty simple rules in place and having the right boundaries, isn't it, really?
I think it is, and what I'd like to really offer there, and it's, you're quite right, we should not live a fortified existence. You know, we live in a great town. New Zealand's a marvellous country, and I often say in these workshops, if I scare people into not using this technology, then I'll stop doing it. It is about using it safely. And I'll give you an example. If you think about what is required to cross a road safely for young people, they're very basic, simple instructions what they've got to do. When they approach the road, that education triggers and they do what they've got to do and they cross safely. As they leave the road behind them, they stop thinking about car crashes. They stop thinking about injuries. The same as we do. We've never thought of it. Once we approach the road, we trigger reasonable awareness. That's what we've got to do with this technology. When a person sits down to use a computer, have a reasonable level of awareness to spot some of the issues that may present for them. I do not want to scare people, and this education does not do that. So yeah, that's. But I do agree, there's a fine line.
John Parsens, obviously there's a lot to talk about in relation to all of this technology, the way the culture's changing and how that we deal with what some people are able to do. We're going to invite you back to talk more in detail about this, but for now, thanks for talking to us at Mainland Television.
Thank you very much. Thank you.